Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Derek Wandera. Welcome to the KFM Hotseat tonight, where we host journalists and pundits to discuss and delve into the issues that have happened through the week. In the wake of this week, Honorable Segirinya was buried way that side of Masaka, and quite a lot of things and politics unfolded there. I have a panel of four so far. Seasoned journalists and pundits. On my extreme right is my former boss. You still are my
No, I am not.
Raymond Mojuni. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Derek.
And Chefe Tigushamwa. I have mastered that name. Welcome to the show. I'm told now you are always within the corridors of Parliament. How is it there?
And the power.
I am glad that Next Media put out a campaign against disinformation. I am glad. A very good evening to
But the last time this man was here, he made us discuss BOU and went and got the money and ate it alone.
Of course. He's always eating alone. And then next to him is Frank Mujimba, who always prefers to be called a Ugandan. Of course, all of us, apart from Dismas here.
Dismas is one. Good evening, Wandera, and good evening to the listeners.
And Dismas Nkunda, welcome back to the show. I know you've not been well. How are you doing? And happy New Year.
I'm good. You can see I'm fit as a fiddle.
Happy New Year. So, like I said, quite a number of things showed up in the wake of this week as the Honorable Segirinya was buried in Masaka. We are not going to discuss his burial and whatever, but we just want to look at what is unfolding thereafter. We see the NUP camp quite deeply divided, things that we've talked about, but also yesterday we saw that the Honorable Kyagulanyi named his deputy in Buganda to replace the Honorable Matthias Mpuuga. I want to begin at that note. What this means in the essence of the Buganda politics. Can Mwanga Chivumbi, the Butambala MP, deliver Buganda to NUP in the coming election? To you, Dismas.
I don't think that I'm trying to look at the connection between Segirinya's death, the appointment of.
For me, what I want us to not discuss the death of Segirinya, because we have discussed it over and again. But then the depth of the division, and in the same time, during the same time, we see the naming of Mpuuga's replacement, and that's Mwanga Chivumbi. We saw that probably while they were in Masaka that day, the Honorable Mpuuga wanted to prove a point that he can command that area. Whether he can or not, that's a discussion for another day. But we see that he has been replaced already. That means the battle lines have been drawn quite clearly.
But it was very clear from the beginning that the moment that controversial money in Parliament, which Mpuuga was given, it wasn't going to go down well. The other aspect that, for me, that comes to mind is what President Museveni said after this election. He said that political party will not be there. And it seems as if it has the chicken has come home, literally, because the kinds of divisions that you see in NUP, they don't augur well in terms of the next elections. Even when you look at Bobi Wine and the euphoria that he had caused the first time that he had, I find that it has ebbed a bit. And so the charisma that you had in a person like Mpuuga is a very well seasoned politician. I am not saying Mwanga Chivumbi is not, but I don't think that he can be able to garner the same kind of, the Uganda and the connections. You remember Mpuuga, the Catholic Church, all those things they have a bearing on what kind of delivery that you can make on Uganda.
I think when the Honorable Chagulanyi was naming him, he said, I'm sending you to Bulangi to go and speak for us in a good way. The people who have been speaking for us do not represent our voice. How do you see that playing out in terms of the biggest institution in this central Buganda and the politics of the political parties?
Of course, in the last election for NUP, if it was a combination of different powerhouses that helped it to garner whatever it garnered at that time, there was the Catholic Church, there was the Buganda element, and I do think that by Bobby Wine mentioning that to Mwanga Chivumbi, he's trying to rekindle what could have been lost in terms of the connections that they had with the Buganda, the Bulange, the kingdom and its politics.
Yeah, I crossed to Raymond. The Daily Monitor last year, I think not last year, after the release of the Honorable Segirinya and Honorable Sawanyana, an investigative story about the connection between Parliament, the Honorable Mpuga, and the other players on their release in terms of bargain. And I know that the Honorable Mpuga came and threatened to sue us until we apologized. But now, I think his speech at the burial of the Honorable Segirinya exonerates us. What do you make of that kind of development in terms of what's the growing politics right now within Buganda, and then connecting it to the fact that now he has officially been thrown out? Because at first he was told he was suspended, but now it's official that he has been thrown out.
I don't know. I think it was a Freudian slip on the part of Mpuga. He has never admitted that he negotiated with members of the Parliamentary Commission, including the Speaker, for the release of Segirinya and his co-accused. I sent Tabu a message in China, and I'm sure he might be listening in. At the time, I remember the question was, do you stand by this story? And I think the editorial of the Daily Monitor said they stood by the story. They were just overridden by the commercial and sales team. And also that we suffered so many court losses, but that story was as intact as they come, that the politics of Uganda is in such a way that people do deals behind the corners, people talk in informal channels, that informality becomes formal. And I think that the National Unity Platform had tried to avoid that kind of politics, the politics where you do deals in the night and you wake up in the morning and do something different. Politicians like that rarely succeed, because General Muntu is one of those people also, when he was FDC president, who tried to avoid doing deals in the night, particularly around Parliament and parliamentary business. But Parliament is really where the rubber hits the tarmac. People have got to negotiate. If you, for example, all the accountability committees are led by the National Unity Platform, there is no way that MDAs are going to get their money and their budgets through, so they need to talk to members of those committees. Sometimes formally, other times informally. I think, though, in terms of the politics of things, Mwanga Chivumbi is a dyed-in-the-wool Nkobazambogo. He's a child of Buganda in all forms and ways. But Mwanga Chivumbi is not a political weight in Buganda. He's not a strong political weight in Buganda, as the National Platform would want to have him. He might have great relations with the people at Bulange Mengo, but he will have to now deal with the dirty and smaller, petty metrical politics where people want the ticket and the party ticket. They go to him. He has to navigate the relationship between Chairman Nyanzi and people who want party card tickets for the coming election. He has to navigate between interests of the Muslim community where he comes from, like the priest Kasim Nachibinges, the Catholic Church, the Anglican Church, and those things will require a little bit more of him. Mwanga Chivumbi is a great performer. He's a great MP in terms of finance, matters regarding finance and security, but now he has to become a politician. And part of that becoming a politician. That job, I would say, is a job that is technically should be reserved for a man like Chairman Nyanzi, only that he's a blood brother to Bobby Wine, and he can't do it. But think, for example, a war, for example, in Maokota, where Amelia Chambade is very likely going to try and come back against their own candidate, Hildeman, who has suffered in that constituency. Think about the exchange of words that we've seen with Waiswa Mufumbiro and members of the party. And Waiswa Mufumbiro wants to run in the coming election. How do you handle the matter of Bashir Kazibwe in his constituency? All those things will fall back to him as the Buganda caucus leader. Luckily for him, he's had a chance as the leader of the Buganda caucus in parliament. But this is now politics that's both inside and outside of parliament, and I pray for him to succeed, but the way that I see the party set up for the coming elections, it's going to be very explosive immediately after the primaries.
Tikushamwa, Dismas here, I would refer to his words, and he was categorical that the Honorable Mpuga is an astute politician and one of those respectable ones within Buganda, but also conjuring between Buganda, the Catholic Church and NUP. With all this that's unfolding about him and reversing about his words and stuff, do you think that is changing the shape of politics around him, and where do you actually see the politics of Mpuga and propelling from Mpuga as national platform without such a kingpin within Buganda?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that the Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi is an astute legislator. Very well spoken, very articulate on the floor of Parliament. Even in committee proceedings, he's great. So he is not the typical NUP protest candidate for any position. He is very much the same man as Mpuga in terms of being an elite, quote-unquote, whatever that means to the National Unity Platform.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the National Unity Platform is making a statement by replacing Mpuga with Mwanga Chivumbi. They are one and in that particular regard, one and the same. If they were truly trying to communicate something about their repulsion towards elite politicians, they could have gone for someone who is a bit more rougher on the edges. But also, I get the impression that Mwanga Chivumbi, based off his parliamentary experience, is one to make concessions to ministries, departments, and agencies who are appearing before him on any committee, whether it's PAC or whatever. I don't think that he is unable to negotiate with the other side, which maybe perhaps was a good thing on the part of the National Unity Platform. Maybe they identified that Mpuga was not a bad person. Mpuga's gifts, his talents were not bad. It was Mpuga who was bad. Because I struggle to see a significant difference between Mwanga Chivumbi and Mpuga. Now, onto the questions of who is a kingpin in Uganda. Uganda doesn't have kingpins of this nature. Even Mpuga, for whatever his strengths are, he doesn't have... what's his constituency again? Mukungwe. Yes. I don't suspect that he will garner as much support as he did in the previous election. So how is he a kingpin of Buganda if he cannot secure his own constituency? In the same way, Mwanga Chivumbi is very troubled in Butambala.
He's
significantly troubled
by our own.
Yes, and if it's anything to go by, he is going to have a very tough election. So how are you a kingpin of an entire region if you cannot secure your own backyard? I think they are one and the same. It is not what is that famous quote of the president about a mere change of guards? This one is truly a mere change of guards. It is not fundamental in any way, shape, or form.
I come to you, Frank. Where does this leave NUP in the entire aspect of politics within Buganda?
Frank must be happy. Very happy.
He's having a cup of tea.
I was going to say that you're asking the obvious question.
But you see, I don't know, because like the previous speakers were saying, I don't think there is a very big difference between Mpuuga and the new appointee, because for starters, what does National Unity Platform want to achieve? They previously won Buganda. I don't know if they want to continue consolidating or increase the percentage that they won Buganda. I don't know what they are doing about the other areas where maybe they performed poorly. So you already have Buganda, and maybe the only challenge is that you are losing Mpuuga, who holds part of Masaka, because he has a constituency that is run. Yes.
According to Tigusha, he's going to struggle to garner support from Mukungu, which is actually a fact.
You cannot.
How are you delivering an entire region if you don't have
You don't have your constituency.
It's possible. It's possible.
You cannot erase his contribution towards National Unity Platform because of a mere 500 million Uganda shillings. Honestly, what is that? So for me, I honestly don't understand.
Did you just say mere?
Yes, I will say mere.
500 million is a mere.
But
yes, it is a mere in the grand scheme of things.
If you became a president of Uganda,
look at his taxpayers' money.
Look at the budget of parliament as
if
an
you became a president of Uganda,
Let's go for a quick commercial break, and when we return, we shall pick it up from there and continue. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Derek Wandera. I have Raymond Mujuni, Chefe Tigushama, Frank Mujimba, and Dismas Nkunda to discuss this week's topical issues. I want us to try to...
I want to finish my point.
Please.
Yep. So, in simple terms, I don't think that Mwanga Chivumbi's appointment will really contribute significantly to National Unity Platform, but the loss of Mpuuga will actually cost them, and this is because. Is
that your wish or a fact?
It is a fact. Do not look at Honorable Matthias Mpuuga as just an individual. This man has the Kingdom of Buganda backing him, and depending on how the members or even the leaders of National Unity Platform, depending on how they are behaving, even actually towards Buganda as a kingdom, it is really a disaster. So they look at Mpuuga as a better option. So I have a feeling that Buganda will actually back Mpuuga, and NUP will lose significantly in the upcoming elections. Of course, it will win. It might win the central, but it is going to lose when you consider how they performed in the previous elections. But for me, the major point was, okay, because we are now focusing on maybe individuals, but I would want to look at the contribution of the bigger picture of political parties in Uganda. You have the government that came into power in 1985, and these political parties came not because I really don't think, and this is my mind, I really don't think that the president actually was practicing democracy or something like that, but he allowed maybe political parties to operate because of the influence of the big, what do you call them, these international funders, the likes
but
of...
some political parties predate Museveni. DP, UPC.
Yes,
but couldn't have definitely allowed them to operate. They were already there.
But most of the political parties that actually are in
he could have got
what you would call first and second position. You understand? But also had
but they are the easiest to swallow.
let's let Frank
also had a referendum for them to come back.
Yeah. So and here he comes and says there will not be any alternative arrangements for a long period for a very long period of time to come. You understand? So I really don't think there is anything other than personal interests, other than a member of parliament securing his constituency or a party maintaining that 57 members of parliament or even 30 members of parliament to make sure they continue getting money from this government, what do they call it? The iPod that contributes money to political parties. So I don't think there is much.
iPod contributes money to political
I think this one is constitutional.
Okay, it is constitutional. That's what I'm saying. That when you have a certain number of representatives as a political party in parliament, you keep getting that money. So other than personal interests, other than maintaining that position, there is nothing much that political parties can really contribute in the era of President Museveni.
Yeah, trying to maybe widen the scope of looking at things, looking at the Buganda factor in the entire politics of the country, Tigushama. Where do you see NUP placed itself? Do we expect to see more yellow within Buganda or other colors apart from red like it was with all this that's going on?
It's a bit too early to call. We will see what the temperatures look like during the primaries. But what I can say is at the peak of the National Unity Platform wave, NRM managed to get 12 members of parliament in Greater Masaka, not Buganda, Greater Masaka. That is Rakai, Kalangala, Liantonde, Sembabule, all the way up to Kalungu. You have the Minister of Water, Aisha Sechindi, and the like. So if at the peak, that was the NRM's performance in a region, what do you think will happen if the power of the National Unity Platform wins? This is, by the way, not to minimize the sentiment, the voter sentiment that informed that wave. People are still aggrieved significantly. And the NRM has taken steps to woo over its rural vote, its rural constituency. So whereas towns will not...
Are you going to talk about PDM?
Yes, I am going to talk about PDM. And many other things, by the way, But the most important thing is the NRM has abandoned all urban centers. Every place that has an urban young youthful population, that has that kind of population density, the NRM has said, okay, you're good for you. And it looks like you've already decided what your vote is. So let us go and see if we can try to sway the undecided or those who are easily swayed. So that is what I think about the National Unity Platform. But it's still too early to call. We will see during the NRM primaries how much of a subscription there will be. Because you say that there is no support of NRM members of parliament in Buganda, and then you find that there is chaos in Buganda for an NRM ticket, not before the general election. Not that they are refusing an opposition candidate from campaigning here. No, there is electoral violence happening for someone to win an NRM ticket. So, but by the time of the primaries, we will have seen the temperature, we will have had a view of the landscape to know how the NRM will perform in Buganda.
56 MPs for National Unity Platform from the central part of the country. Many people are seeing that this number could actually go higher if Bobby Wine just strategized quite well with quite significant support that he got from Busoga. And we've seen that the coming of PFF, if it sways its weight behind the National Unity Platform, do we expect to see a shift in the numbers in terms of President Museveni or NRM support in this country in the coming election?
I think it's too early to try and call something like that. I don't know why editors in this town missed it, but last week the NRM Central Executive Committee had their meeting, and I have it on very good authority. It was also a stormy meeting because of SEC members, first of all, disagreeing on whether, there should be lining up in the party primaries as it was in the previous time. SEC members disagreeing on how the balloting process for SEC itself should go. And there are already tensions within SEC itself about people who want to come and go. So the parties are really shaping themselves up to confront the upcoming election. I still think that the election will still have there will be a protest vote against people who are just tired of the lethargy that the Museveni system has come with. And that lethargy can be seen in its ability to deliver basic services, health, education, roads, infrastructure. That lethargy is still there. The election also has a lot of younger voters. So despite whatever we might think of it, their voters who are coming at the election for the first time in their lives, and they have a chance to decide who they will go with. I think that we are also negating the impact that independents are going to have, because after the primary elections are held, the people that are defeated in those primary elections tend to run as independents, and they have a huge say. There are some constituencies where, because you had two strong candidates of the same party, the chance goes to the opposition to win it over. I think we've had an example of that in Kisoro, an independent beating the NRM in what they thought was a quick election for them. So those things still matter a lot, and the politics is still not yet framed. The election has not yet been framed. Everyone is still preparing to face up to what might be the election. If we have elections, that is the speed at which we are going, someone has to also start to raise that question of the fact that, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs has not brought the reforms that they intend to carry on as government. The parliamentary calendar and cycle has started, so anytime they bring those reforms, we might end up getting swamped into those reforms and they become the defining factor of the elections. And that means the election might be very different from what we presume it to be right now.
This month, Raymond talks about electoral reforms coming as a game changer if they do in the next election, but also so do personalities. What do you think can actually make a very big game changer in the coming election in terms of personalities? Do we see any of the figures, the political figures, maybe the bouncing back of Dr. Kizza Beisgye, or do we still wait to see a two-man horse race of the Honorable Kyagulanyi and President Museveni?
I think I said it earlier in the beginning, and I was saying that I think what Museveni has been working on is how to neutralize and make NUP not garner the same kind of euphoria and support that it had in the last election. And I think it is Shefe who was saying that the loss in urban centers. Now, and I don't think that it's the first time. Since elections, all the elections that have been held, the ruling party loses in urban centers for obvious reasons. Yes, most of the urban centers for obvious reasons. That the people who stay there are the Wanderas, are the Raymonds, the people who read the newspapers, the ones who know about corruption,
the ones who think they can rule, the ones who think it is easy to rule.
Yeah. But in 2035, you will not avoid it. It will be 50-50.
So I think that we are going to get the same figures. The only one electoral reform which I think might be very intriguing and important is the one of who elects the president.
If that ever came
it is most likely going to come. It's most likely going to come that the electing of the president, because remember here, Derek, Museveni doesn't have still the same stamina, the same energy of going and combing around the things that Bobby Wine was doing.
But he's doing it with a PDM tour.
No, wait, PDM tour, he does it.
He meets people like he did.
The same thing, that's the election he carried out the last time. He was meeting people, it was COVID time, he would even just wave and leave. But you could see that Bobby Wine was traveling to Ntoroko, from Ntoroko he goes to Kasese on the same day. Why? He has the energy. So the reason why I'm saying that electoral reform might become in handy is that then it becomes very easy. You elect the MPs, they are the ones who suffer looking for the votes, they get parliament, and they elect the president.
Finished. Let's go for a quick commercial break, and when we return, we shall come with this and more. KFM's Hotseat. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Derek. I'm still with your very good personal panelists and journalists, very senior at that. We are shifting gears to General Muhoozi Kainerugaba is back on the streets of Twitter.
When did he leave?
He's back with a bang.
Someone recently made a joke and said that they had attended a quiz where one of the questions was, what is the longest sabbatical that the general has ever taken from Twitter? And the correct answer was 4 days. But recently he made 6 days.
6 days?
Yeah.
That's long. That was long.
Yes. And for that I would like to thank him.
And honestly, he's come back with a banger. He has quite many programs of beheading and all the people around. And these tweets have gone so viral. Everyone is talking about them. And I want to begin with Frank because Frank, these tweets I know are making you very happy. And like what do you make of them?
What
Are
do you
they
mean?
anything for us to worry about, or
What do you
think?
mean they're making me happy?
Maybe.
That I want someone beheaded or something like that? No. But seriously, Wandera, I think we've talked about that before, and I've really stated, I read these tweets, but whenever I read them like I will read tweets from any other person. I'll scroll, read, and proceed.
Are you sure? When
Yes.
I tweet, you read my tweet the way you
Yes.
read General Muhoozi's tweet?
Definitely. And this is the reason as to why. He has said things that have actually not come to pass. A number of things that he has said have not passed. So I really don't see why I should consider why I should consider it when he comes out and says he's going to behead the head of the political head of National Unity Platform. I really don't understand why I should consider that. So I read them as normal tweets and proceed. And for me, they really make me happy. Sometimes you will laugh off at some of these things, because he comes out and says, I am going to behead Kabobi. Then the next time he comes, he says, Bobi Wine is someone that we funded to remove the kingpin, who was Dr. Kizza Beisgye. So and when the person comes out to responds on one about beheading and does not respond about the other. So you wonder what is correct and what is not correct. So
what is correct?
No. That's what I'm saying.
And what is not correct?
I don't think maybe all of them are not correct, because none of them has come to pass, basing on the history that we have, what he has said before. But they're just interesting to read and proceed. So I don't think that you should put a lot of effort in trying to understand.
Frank.
Yes.
Someone comes and tweets.
Yes.
He's a general. He's the CDF.
Yes.
And he says, I'm going to behead Bobi Wine. And you say that is something.
If you see him
like
disappear one of these days, don't ask me many questions.
Maybe the only challenge that I would have with such a statement from the CDF is when someone, maybe for him he does not intend to do that, but when someone who does not wish well for Uganda comes and takes advantage of such a statement, maybe attacks, and kills Bobi Wine. So because of what he said, that can be blamed on him. You understand? So that is that. But at the back of my mind, I don't think that he actually means that he's going to be. So in the first place, if you're saying you're going to behead him, why did you find him in the first time? So has he successfully executed them?
I'm at great pains to defend Frank, but I would like to also add in a bit to this. That,
as you should be anyway.
I'm at great pains. But he does not need to ask for permission with the resources at his disposal to do such a thing.
Is he asking for permission, or is just?
That's what I'm saying. That if he wanted to do it, he wouldn't have to say it.
Yes.
The fact that he's saying it adds a bit of a tragicomedy to it.
Interesting is that he has not said only about Bobby. He has also said about Dr. Kizza Beisgye. And I'm just going to read one of the tweets of the Deputy Lord Mayor Doreen Nyanjura here, saying a PFF delegation has returned from Luzira Maximum Prison. New orders have been issued. Dr. Kizza Beisgye has been given two choices: to either eat food or starve. All the food items we carried were rejected.
But is that a choice?
We were told
that eat food or starve.
Is that options?
To either eat prison food.
Yes.
Either eat prison food or starve. So says eat the posho, millet and whatever has been rejected, and the prison authority have told him all this is found at the canteen, and doctor says he won't eat their canteen food. He doesn't trust it. He remarked that probably he will starve to death and die before the date set by General Muhoozi to kill him. So with all this coming into perspective, Raymond here has covered security much more and across the world and across the region. I don't know whether there is a person who has made as many jokes like Tegushama and Frank are trying to put it in his position than General Muhoozi. And coming with this new account, it it is buzzing with a lot of. Is it just a mere collection of likes and followers or what?
What if he's writing a book?
but also, the president of Ethiopia, what's his name again? Abiy Ahmed. He has never made any tweets of that nature, but that didn't stop him from the war. That war in Tigray that killed a lot more people than any Twitter comments will ever kill. Why? Why is Twitter the worst thing you could possibly do?
Raymond.
I think so. One, like many people, I often wonder when I see these tweets. There was a time when people said, these tweets are the making of insobriety. That these tweets could have been something that happened on a drunken night out. But I look at them and I see the coherence. I see the spellings being as accurate as they are, the intention behind the communication being very accurate, the timing within which the tweets are sent, and knowing what a CDF does on a day-to-day basis, having seen CDFs before, General Muhoozi must have very busy days. Very, very busy days from morning to the evenings. I mean, the early half of the morning of any CDF is engaged with briefings. If Muhoozi treated the Ugandan Twitter community as a very serious community, we would have known something that happens in those briefings. We don't. If he treated us, or if he treated the platform as a very serious platform, we would be hearing a lot more about what he's doing. For example, there's refurbishings happening right now at the general headquarters of the UPDF. The museum project of the UPDF has just taken off. On many occasions, you see these tweets just after he has given a speech to soldiers, say the land forces soldiers in Kaweweta. You can clearly see that this is a medium which we take serious, which I think that General Muhoozi doesn't take serious. And now we have this latitude of a problem that our ability to take this platform serious now demands that General Muhoozi, who is a leader of the Ugandan army, must either take the platform serious or find another different way to communicate. I can see for a fact that there are headwinds that come with these tweets. Some of the headwinds are when mention is made of other countries that treat Twitter as a very serious medium, they respond with immediacy. So Ethiopia, for example, is one of those countries that has really held out and said, there must be an apology for some of the tweets that have been sent out. Yes, and Sudan. Like many Ugandans, I think General Paul Kagame said, of all the things he admires about Muhoozi, he hopes that he can edit the tweets that Muhoozi sends out. So you can clearly see that the people around him and the people who perceive him as a leader, and some of them including members of the Twitter community, treat those tweets as very serious. But you can clearly see he's demonstrably making sure that those tweets, in his case, are not very serious. He did vow on the same Twitter platform to expel the US ambassador. Unless I am mistaken, the US ambassador is still here in the country. So maybe sometimes these are things that he considers as doing as a private individual, not as a CDF of the Ugandan army. And maybe increasingly people need to impress upon him that the perception of the tweets and the perception of him are not any different now. And many people derive their perception of him from the tweets. But in the day-to-day work of a CDF, you can clearly see there's work that has been done since he became CDF, which work is not making it to his Twitter account, which work is not talking about. So it's that crisis of trying to resolve the possibilities there. But also, unfortunately for him, he's the son of the president. So he has so many profiles. He's the CDF of the country, yes, but he's also the son of the president. So people, there are many generals I see. I have generals who are my friends on WhatsApp, and I see the things they send on WhatsApp, and I'm like, of all people, shouldn't be you, a general, falling for this. But sometimes I really pity them also in their lifetimes. A general, for example, like Kayanja Mhanga, are fighting battles after battles after battles. You spend the morning planning resources for your soldiers, and then you spend the evening chilling with your soldiers. So you have very little time to understand this Twitter community. When you come onto the Twitter community, many things have happened you don't understand. You just share your thoughts and go. But I feel like someone, maybe in the mend of Andrew Mwenda, maybe in the mend of Cedric Babu, maybe in the mend of Alan Kasuja, I feel like someone who speaks at close range with the general and someone who doesn't regard him as a minor or doesn't regard him as someone to be devalued, someone needs to impress upon him that the Twitter account and his personality are now increasingly being seen as one and the same, which in the physical life are actually not one and the same, because there are things he's doing that you can clearly not find online. Yeah.
And this must, before we go for a break, it's very hard to tear or to draw a line between the general who is serious and who is not serious. For instance, there's a tweet that he sent out, I think, this afternoon or something, and the parliament has called on the defense minister to summon the CDF to explain the tweets.
He has said he's not going to meet those
clowns and the fools and stuff like that. If you people are trying to help us understand that maybe he's just making jokes on Twitter, is this another of such biggest jokes?
Me sometimes I think the general might be communicating something that we are not very, very clear about, and we don't know. I sometimes think he wants to copy and paste what the character of Donald Trump. So that I don't think he's that stupid not to know what exactly he's doing. He's a very intelligent guy. You can't become what he is other than being a son of the president. He's the CDF, for crying out loud. So to that extent, but I like the idea for what Raymond is saying, and I think it's Shefe, that you don't find the intel, certain things which he gets on a briefing that it percolates and you find it on the Twitter. That one you don't find it. Now, why is he doing what he's doing? I do believe that for me he's communicating something. And that communication, it's him who can be able to do what? What's the word?
To decipher
it himself and tell us this is the intention of why I'm giving you cryptic messages. If you understand it, you understand it. Otherwise, in this age and time, when every small thing that he sends, it's read by almost all people who are on smartphones, because it's circulating all around. So I don't think that he doesn't know, and he has people who tell him that, Raymond told you, President Paul Kagame, when he was here, told him, can you please edit your, anyway. Let's go for a break.
Let's go for a quick commercial break. And when we return, we shall wrap up this with our last segment. Welcome back. We go for our last segment. Our time is fast spent, but one thing I wanted us to discuss is about the amendment of Dr. Kizza Beisgye's charge sheet, bringing on another co-accused, an army officer, also being accused of treachery. I have 7 minutes to go. I want to give each of you 1 minute what you make of these new charges slapped against Dr. Kizza Beisgye in the court martial. I begin with you, Dismas.
You don't want to start this of all the time.
No, but it's a very intriguing change, given that it makes even the case much more. Maybe for the prosecution, it becomes because he's a serving army officer, and my gut was that the day I heard that they had added him on the charge sheet, I thought it was going to be the same case. You remember the case of Chakua? Of someone who will go in and then become a what?
A talking head.
A talking head, or even testifies. Goes on the side of the government and testifies that I did the following things with Beisgye supply of arms.
Beisgye refused to take plea, but yes. The soldier pleaded not guilty.
Yes. So the point is, I think we need to watch whoever was decided that and what is going to happen in terms of how the case is going to evolve. I think it is an intriguing thing that we should look out for. Frank?
Yeah, I think it shouldn't be surprising. First of all, I think what was added is treachery, then also the other person who came. And I really think that it might even be amended more than that, because in the short audios that we had, the man who speaks like the accused says there are people that we have in the Air Force and in the military. So he says there are some people. So if he's accused of that, I don't think that he could have been operating as an individual, or even two people. So that simply means there could be a line of other people. Maybe investigations are still going on, and maybe as time goes on, this charge sheet will be amended and more people will be brought on board.
This is all the charges carry a maximum sentence of death. What do you, Tigushama, think about it?
It is very unfortunate what the government of Uganda is doing to Dr. Kizza Beisgye for this long. It is too prolonged. It is too monotonous. It is too evident. It lacks any sophistication. It is too banal. It is too predictable. I really, really, really wish that they could do better with regards to how they're handling Dr. Kizza Beisgye, because this is not a new thing. I'm not familiar with the charges, so I cannot comment on that. However, that I wanted to say very clearly, in no unequivocal terms.
Raymond, I come to you. You are the editor. You are the person who interacts with some of these stories on a daily, and you saw things unfolded this week about the amendment and all that. What do you make of everything?
Again, I think it's unfortunate. First of all, I think it's unfortunate for the newsroom, because the captain who was added, Dennis Ola, upon reading, I remembered that I had heard his name somewhere, and I imagined this man had actually been on a charge sheet of another case.
Yeah, 2 years ago?
2 years ago. It was unfortunate that the newsroom didn't bring that matter to light. I think that this captain is a repeat. He's a repeat offender in being charged for crimes he doesn't know about.
In the first charge was 48. This one is 38.
39. He has changed the age. Yeah, but I have insisted, and I think I said this at the start, that the charges against Dr. Kizza Beisgye were designed to file. And the reason they were designed to file so that there can be a political settlement of this Kizza Beisgye matter. I think CMI, which picked him up, had a degree of latitude to consult on how to rendition him from Kenya, and they decided to take the route they took. I think that they took a lot of advice also from maybe the Attorney General and the DPP on the charges to prefer upon him, and they realized they didn't want to charge him in those things and put him in the General Court Martial. I increasingly find that many judges in Uganda are afraid of being sanctioned. They're afraid of ending up in areas where, their names are in disrepute, so they now try and avoid political matters. Or if Beisgye were brought before them, they would have given him bail by now. So this is a political matter, and it will definitely have to be resolved politically. What we do not know is, and I think that what we need to aim for is, what's the conversations that's happening between, for example, a person in the mind of Winnie Byanyima and the members of the state who are doing this charging. I saw someone, Dr. Anes Kalibala, who is one of Beisgye's more formal and more serious lawyers, on that bench. Any good journalist should perhaps get into his ear and ask, what's the strategy for this matter? Because you can clearly see that Kizza Beisgye considers this matter very serious. You wouldn't have seen Anes Kalibala there if it wasn't a very serious matter. So I think it's a very political matter that's being resolved politically. We are just being treated to the spectre in the court-martial, but the cheese is moving elsewhere except in the court-martial.
So interesting there. There's a lot that's going to keep unfolding, I think, this week, because Aaron Kizza still remains remanded, but I know that his lawyers have have petitioned the Court of Appeal at the court martial, and something they were pondering so much. Talking to some of his lawyers, they intimated that one of the other strategies was to actually treat this the court martial with discontent, because they do not find it credible. But then that throws you to the other side of only waiting for the Constitutional Court to pronounce themselves on the matter. But then I know that they were left with only 3 options to go and ask Aaron Kizza to serve the 9 months, petition an appeal, or wait for the Constitutional Court.
Did they hear somewhere that they also wanted him to apologize?
That is another matter that we can discuss another day. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had today. Have a very good evening, and thanks for being good listeners. My name is Derek Wandera. See you next Friday.